Initial impressions on your end. This seems about right. When there's this many teams, you can go back and forth on where this team belongs, but really it's sort of a moot point, at least as far as where teams should be ranked right now, because this is going to evolve over the next few weeks.
Yeah, because there's so many teams on here that have games like within the next week that could greatly impact this bracket. Even if you look, at multiple teams, because of course we know Alabama and LSU play this week. LSU, one of those teams that was the first four out. So obviously that's going to have an impact. But even looking at like Tennessee, who right now is sitting at the 8 spot, they still have to play Georgia, and their last game of the season is against Vanderbilt. Usually this is an easy win for the Vols, but this year I don't think it is. We know that I've been pumping, all of the hype for Vandy this year, but I think this is going to low-key be a really good game. Vandy with a good shot, I think, at an outright win here. But more than anything, I feel like this is when matchups matter the most. So when you look at this bracket as it stands, like the first thing that stands out to you is, okay, does this team do the thing really well that the other team cannot defend against? So I feel like every year there is a reason for complaining, whether it's, in years past, it's been there weren't enough teams in the college football playoff. And now that we have 12, people are going to be complaining about some of the matchups because all of these seeds are not created equal. And there are certain teams that I feel like even the top seeds are not going to want to go against. And then finally, I think my biggest takeaway is this is the perfect year for the college football playoff to start with 12 teams, because it feels like we have so much parity in college football this year that there's a good shot that we'll see one of these teams that's a double-digit seed have a shot in the national championship game. Because even looking at it now, Alabama, an 11 seed, is anybody going to be shocked if they make it to the national title game? Probably not.
No, I don't think so. And I think there are a couple of things that stand out to me here. Number one is how much these games, and I know you touched on this a little bit, like how much the games already this weekend are going to affect what we see, be it LSU, Alabama. That's going to be a big one. Even Georgia and Ole Miss on Saturday. Ole Miss will have a chance if Ole Miss can upset Alabama, or Georgia, I should say. And by the way, Ole Miss is only a 2.5-point dog in Oxford. I think Georgia wins that game. But if Ole Miss wins, all of a sudden they rocket up the standings. Then we see Georgia fall. So let me toss this out. Georgia with 2 losses. Potentially. Do they end up making the top 12? Because then you've got a lot of teams in the SEC jockeying for position. You would have Ole Miss up there. Texas, maybe Texas A&M if they beat the Longhorns. There's a lot of different scenarios, but the real debate's going to come when we get down there around 10, 11, 12, and you have a team like a Boise State, for example, that is right there, or maybe an Army if they beat Notre Dame, a team that's right there on the edge that probably belongs in, but then the SEC gets some favoritism because it's the SEC.
Yeah, I think a lot of this depends on like what the other teams do. This is why it's so fascinating, because you don't even control your own destiny. Like obviously if you win all your games and you play in the SEC, you control your own destiny, but the SEC has been so good top to bottom this year that it feels like there's a lot of cannibalism going on. We know the committee is probably going to favor the SEC. If there's like a head-and-head race between somebody in the SEC and somebody who's not in the SEC, the gentle nudge is probably going to go to the team from the conference in which it just means more. But as far as some of these games go, like, again, I feel like the only rankings that matter are the ones at the end of the year. But from a betting standpoint, I think our job right now is to look at the teams who are not even in the bracket or even, quote unquote, in contention, and see if we can pick somebody from the dark horse standings for a team that could possibly make a run here. Because if I'm talking about all this parity and how anybody can win it, that should translate to some value in the betting market, should it not?
Oh, it absolutely should. And I'm trying to figure out which team that would be. What do you think about Indiana? Is Indiana for real? Like, we just don't know. We're going to find out very quickly because they host Michigan this weekend. I believe now they're a 14.5-point favorite over the defending national champions. That's remarkable. Then they go to Ohio State the week after that. And if you listen to the committee, they said Indiana hasn't played anyone. They have played 0 ranked teams. However, they are winning their games by an average of 33 points a game. So even now, whenever you hear style points, it is a factor. But Indiana is a team that no one's talking about. I don't think anyone's taking them seriously. But this is a good squad. If they go into Columbus and beat Ohio State, they will rocket up these standings. I would be curious what the look-ahead line would be in this game. But if they're able to do it, you will see their odds shorten in a big way. Are you in on the Hoosiers, or do you need to see more? I feel like I'm like a lot of people. I got to see more here.
Yeah, I feel a little snake bitten because wasn't this kind of the talking point for Tennessee before they played anybody?
Yeah.
They were piling up the points. Their offense looked amazing, and Nico was one of the favorites to win the Heisman. But then they actually played somebody, and boy, did that come crumbling down. Now it's a team that everybody says, this is a team that's predicated on running the football and their defense. So I feel like for Indiana, it's still a wait-and-see situation for me. But if you do like them, they're 35-1 to win the national championship game. And when you have odds that are that long, like you play that because of the hedging opportunities that you have down the road. Because even if they make it to the national championship game, you know, you're going to have a good opportunity to play the other side for some amount of money. But I feel like this is also a wait and see game because of the matchups involved. It's the same reason where I don't really like betting on who wins the national championship in college basketball, because matchups matter so much when it comes to these brackets. So I feel like for me, some of these teams can be really good and look like the best team in college football. But if there's a team on the opposite side of the coin that if they happen to draw this team when the bracket comes out, there could be some spoilers happening. So I think for me, I'm going to wait until the bracket comes out to make some bets on this. But maybe a team that kind of fits the bill of like dark horses that we're looking for. Mm-hmm. What about LSU? Do you think they have enough top-end potential to possibly contend here? Because the thing is, if they beat Alabama and if they make it in, you know, they're a team that has, I'm not going to say like super long odds, but they're 40-1 to win the national championship. Yeah. I kind of like those odds.
I like those a lot. I think Garrett Nussmeier is a very good quarterback. LSU has been on a roll recently, and they're a team that I think they're going to win outright this weekend. That's just my personal prediction. They're 3-point dogs to Alabama. They're going to be the more desperate team in this spot. I don't know how much that matters because both teams are going to be in this spot, right? If Alabama loses, they're done. An Alabama team that is 6-3 is not going to make the college football playoff. It's just not going to happen. LSU, however, at 7-2, will likely vault into that top 12, but it's in Baton Rouge. And if they get this win, all of a sudden they look like a real formidable opponent. They seem like one of those teams that on any given day can beat just about anyone. I don't think they're the best team in the country, but I do think when you look at Brian Kelly and that offense and how they've improved and how they've been battle-tested. Remember, they had to have that win in Baton Rouge against Ole Miss where they didn't lead until it was overtime and they finally emerged victorious. I think LSU is a sneaky good pick as well.